Alright, so here's what I'm going to show you guys how to build today. This is just a basic drum kit template that I use to start out most of my kits when I build them from scratch. As you can see, nothing's really programmed into here yet. This is just something I copy out to start out with blank canvas. I route each of these 16, actually only 14, I omit these two just to keep it clean. I route these 14 pads out to these 14 mixer channels, which first go through this EQ stage. 2 parametric EQs for each drum kit, just so I can get a really precise cut and boost on each of my pads. And then from the mixer, we're going out auxiliary to just a basic delay and reverb that I can add to each channel through these auxiliary sends, and a parallel compression that is just squeezing the shit out of the sound here. That if you don't know about parallel compression, we'll do an episode about that, but basically it's going to give you a lot of punch to your drums if you use it subtly without clipping, but it's going to keep that nice tone that you picked out in the first place before you had to make it compete against the rest of the track. So yeah, let's just get on to that, and I'll show you the process of building it. So first we're going to create a new combinator. If you see on mine, there's a custom backdrop which I designed. You can get the template from the CD that Reason came with, the install CD, or I believe off the Propellerhead's website. But it's just a Photoshop file that's got all the pieces here, and you can build your own custom background, export it as a JPEG, and as you saw, I just selected the backdrop, chose that custom combinator, and there it is. Now I also do the same when we build our Kong drum designer. They also have that backdrop available. So now when I save this out, it's going to save all that artwork in there as well, and I have my own custom machines that I can, send to a friend. They're going to see the artwork whenever they open it up. So here we have our Kong drum designer. We're going to add a 14 channel mixer. If you really want to be precise about it, you can add a second one, chain it out through the master here. But instead of that, to keep it clean, I choose to omit 2 of my pads. Instead of using 16, I only use 14 of them. Straight off the bat, I'm going to take my main audio out of the Kong and change it to route out through the mixer. And my main audio out from the Kong is now going to go into channel 1. What this is going to do, once I pull this drum output down to main audio output left and right in my programmer section. Sorry, that's the wrong one. Go from master effects to main output left and right on drum 1. Now this is drum 1, this main audio left and right. As if I were to take 3 and 4 here, add them over to 3, and I came down here and sent drum pad 3 to output 3 and 4. Now this has come into its own mixer channel. But now the thing I'm going to do is this main out left and right, you can see is a stereo signal. I'm going to take the right channel of that stereo signal and now move it over to channel 2. And with the out 3 and 4, I'm going to do the same and move the right channel over to mixer input 4. Now the really important part to make sure, right now all of these 2 pads are routed both to channel 1 and 2. This is going to show up on channel 1 and 2 here. I'll show you real quick. Bass drum, boom, Now this is on 2 channels. Let's do the same, put a snare here. This is also on 2 channels. So the way around that is, if I click on drum 1, you see here in the mini programmer, I can pan it hard left. What that does here is send drum 1 only out through output left, which is now going to input 1 of the mixer. And you can see now we only have 1 mixer activated here. But with the snare, we come hard right, and now we see again only 1 channel is being activated. So what I'm going to do is go through the rest of these pads, omitting these 13 and 14. I tend to put my ride and my crash up on 14 and 16 just for my visual appeal of imagining the drum set mapped over the keys. And then those will go out to 13 and 14 respectively on the mixer. So let me do that real quick and we'll speed through it so you guys don't have to watch. Okay, now you see right here I went out 13 and 14 into 13 and 14, but because of the way I prefer to route my drums on the pads, now pad 14 here is going to come out to input 13, and pad 16 here is going to come out to track 14. Now, just as we did through here, I'm going to go through. Okay, so now you have all of these drums routed through their own dedicated mixer channels. From this mixer, I'm going to go in here, I'm going to add an M-class compressor. I'm just going to move it up here for looks to keep everything separated from the other effects I'm going to build. Now that's routed through auxiliary 1, as you can see. When I adjust this, it's going to add that to my signal on each channel, and I am going to crank the hell out of it. I'm going to make sure that it's compressing the hell out of this signal, and it's going to give it the real punch we need. From here, I'm going to go in and add a simple advanced reverb, which will go on automatically to auxiliary send 2. And then let's go in and add a echo machine, which is going to go to auxiliary 3, and we'll keep those 2 in order so we don't confuse ourselves. Close those down. Those are really tweaks once you've picked out your samples and built your whole drum kit. The next stage I like to add, even though this is a great place to start if you don't want to add all the EQ section, if you're not a real tweak head, you just route your drums through their mixer channel. You got your own individual mix for everything. Save this out, make it as a patch, and that can be your blank slate for drum kits. But for me, I'm a tweak head. I like to get very precise control over my EQ settings. I'm gonna hold shift when I add this EQ and duplicate it. Now I'm gonna call this kick, and kick as well. My kick is now routed main out left into channel 1, which I'm instead going to bring down to this kick 1 EQ, the output of which I'm going to put in to the second EQ, the output of which I'm going to put back into my mixer. So now we see when we hit pad 1, we have audio routed through these two equalizers and then into channel 1 of our mixer. On the first EQ, right off the bat, I'm going to bring my gain all the way down, activate filter B, bring my Q all the way up so it's nice and tight, bring one of them all the way down in frequency, bring one of them all the way up in frequency. All this is going to do is roll off the very top and the very bottom of my sound spectrum and make sure the stuff that we really can't hear as humans isn't muddying up our mix. And that's going to go automatically on every track. But with our Q set so high, we're barely going to be pulling anything off. What I like to do once I'm inside this drum, I'm probably not going to move the Q on the left very much because I want to keep that bass. But if you can hear the difference in the tone there, by pulling this Q down a bit, I'm going to clean up a lot of space in my kick drum for stuff like the cymbals or claps, anything like that. So now I'm going to have access to do this on every channel for my drum kit here. Basically, I'm going to grab these two and hit copy a bunch of times, 13 times to be exact, so we can map them out to each of our drums up in the kit. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. Now, as you can see, all this did was route each of these to each other. So we got some more routing to do. I'm going to bust through it real quick by coming from, now we're going channel 2 into number 1 and then back out through number 2. Close that down and we know where we're at. So I'm going to go through the rest of that and then come back to you guys. Superman status. Superman status. Superman status. Like a flying. Okay, so now what we have here, we're going to want to go through and rename each one of these to their respective drums. As you can see in my original version of this, this is my basic drum layout here, if you guys can see. That's what I tend to build. You know, a lot of times this stuff changes and, you know, a clap ends up on snare 2 or whatever, but, you know, this is a template. This is just to keep it nice and easy and organized for me to start out with. This is my blank slate, as I said. And, you know, once you save this out, you only got to do it once. I know it was a lot of routing and kind of a pain in the ass, but now this is built and this is my go-to machine. I tweak out all my effects per track and, you know, get the sound you want, not the sound somebody else designed. Alright guys, we'll see you next time. Peace.